Hello and welcome back to Lordenfel episode 7.6.1 Baphomet the Demon NPC. In today's episode we will review Baphomet's scene configuration in Unity for the Wretched Island scene. We will look at the Demon at the Graveyard override controller animator configuration for Baphomet, and we'll look into the details of how his RPG builder configuration works so that he can attack the player. So right from the beginning, we find a suitable location at the graveyard, and we create under NPC setups a placeholder Baphomet prefab, which we will disable. This is just to place him in a suitable spot on the nav mesh. We will also disable his animator because we will use a different one. We will assign the prefab, however. Now, just a note, we will fight him in the graveyard, and sometimes you want an enemy, when he dies, to deliver loot or a loot item or a loot bag or something like that visible in the scene. But in the case of Baphomet, that is currently not configured and he won't drop any loot. We can change that at any time, however. So the first thing we do to set him up, once we have the location of where we want him to spawn according to this transform X, Y, Z positions, we create this object Baphomet empty under spawners. We make sure it's on the default layer. We attach the NPC spawner script. If you don't see it, just add component and search for NPC spawner. It will be endless, meaning since he's a demon, he will spawn again and again and again, not just one time. We will spawn him in an exact location right here, and he will despawn when he moves, or the player moves, more than 300 units away from each other. The NPC assignment is Baphomet NPC, and we'll see in a minute how that's configured. I like to start in RPG Builder with the presets. So let's go and take a look under AI presets, Baphomet. We assign that prefab. We make him slightly below the surface of the ground, default layer, so it doesn't look like he's floating above it. We will assign his animator controller, the Demon at Graveyard override, and we'll use his avatar, Demon at Idle Avatar, which you get from the FBX file. He's not very smart at avoiding obstacles, and you will be able to interact with him 3 units or less. So let's look at the animator controller Demon at Graveyard override. For those who don't know this yet, this tip here, you can find the overrides that comes with RPG Builder here. For instance, there's Deer Stag override and there's Demon at Graveyard. Pick any of them and make a duplicate copy with Ctrl D, give it a name, and then double click to edit it. So in this case, Demon at Graveyard override. The reason for this is this will allow you to assign your own animations relative to that model. So the controller that they all share is called NPC animator, but you can even customize that if you want to get a little bit more advanced, as we shall see. So currently we will assign his attack animations, his buff, all of these. Now let's say you wanted to have more than 3 attack animations. Well, then we'll have to customize the NPC animator controller as we see below. As we can see, he has attack 1, 2 and 3, but you can add another one. Start by making it the same as one of the 3 and then change it from there. So this is all the transitions that he can experience. So for example, you can go from idle to circling to run back to idle. But unlike before, this time we're going to control this with conditions, not with exit time. So if a certain condition is met, he will transition from idle to circling. And you'll see there's 3 triangles, so there's 3 conditions. In This example here, we can see that he can go from idle to circling, idle to run, and so on. The exit time is unchecked, very important, because we're controlling it with conditions. For example, in combat state must be false, vertical movement must be greater than 0, strafing must be true, then you'll go from idle to circling, for example. Looking into the details of this, where does this come from? This idle animation is found under this path here, and the FBX is here. Yours will be different. The animation clip itself must be set to loop, because we're going to play it until a condition is met to stop idling, for example. Now let's take a look inside RPG Builder configuration for Baphomet. So under AI NPC Baphomet, we see that he has his name, his unique ID, his display name that you want. He's using the standard AI logic template. We will assign phases like the demon phase, and we'll use the preset Baphomet NPC preset, which we configured under presets. A look at the phases, you can find it under AI phases demon. And phases and behavior is closely linked and work together. So the chance of a demon behavior is 100%. You could make it 70% and give him a different behavior 30% of the time if you want. As you can see, you can have potential behaviors. So if you want to get a bit more advanced, experiment with that. We will show that in future episodes. The actions is based on this template, phase 1 demon phase, and what actions are configured for phase 1, you'll be able to do those actions. The animation is the buff animation, and it will activate on completion. You can add sounds if you wish, those are optional. You can add visual effects if you wish, also optional. So looking under AI behaviors demon, it will check every 3 seconds if it needs to change the minimum and maximum target distance, the look at target speed, how fast he turns to look at you, and how often he checks it. The parameter that will determine when he must strafe, the parameter that will determine when he is in combat. Can he attack the enemy? Yes, he can. And his default state will be idle, so if there's no enemies nearby. As you can see, just configure it like this. This is pretty standard RPG Builder stuff, but you can completely customize how each of them work inside. Under behaviors demon, we look a little bit further just to complete the screen slide. Combat state, walk, backward. And then the demon phase abilities. Then drilling down into the functions for this AI, for Baphomet. Make sure you enable him for combat, otherwise he won't be able to fight you. Now, most likely he's not going to be a trader merchant since he's an enemy. He's also likely not going to give you a quest, but you could. You could also make your enemies speak to you if you want. Can he be targeted? Yes. Show his nameplate? Yes. Movement enabled? Yes. His combat settings. Notice he's part of the Beast faction, which will increase with difficulty as the player levels up. He will also do that. We will reset his phase, however, after combat and heal him instantly. He will respawn 5 seconds, between 5 and 10 seconds, and his corpse, if you kill him, will be despawned 15 seconds later. Like I said, he will not drop any visual loot, so no loot in this case, but you can change that. Or you could make it that you become more friendly with his faction over time, depending on how you set up your game. If you want a loot table, use this option here. So looking at his stats, his health is defaulted to 300. You can override the maximum value, but usually it will be 300 max, so it's quite a tough enemy. So we will do a fight with Baphomet in game next, but just be warned, he's quite dangerous and his damage can be quite hurtful to the player. So if the player hasn't upgraded his weapons or his armor, he may not be able to beat him.